Hello, I'm Raquel Reinigal, a current master's degree student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in the Department of Second Language Studies. In this video series, we'll be covering some alternative and not so alternative approaches to second language teaching. This particular video will be covering cooperative language learning. So sit back and let's take an overview of this approach by guest lecturer Linda.
What is cooperative language learning? All cooperative learning methods share the idea that students work together to learn and are responsible for their teammates' learning as well as their own. It emphasizes the use of team goals and team success, which can be achieved only if all members of the team learn the objectives being taught in class. Interactive students learning from each other, they share a common goal. The goal is usually to succeed in the class, but it's only successful if all the students are on the same page. Elements of successful cooperative learning. So the first one is positive interdependence. Most of the students need to depend off of each other. They have all this information, but you don't have the whole picture. They have pieces of it, everyone has pieces of it, but together they can form the main message. Second one is individual and group accountability. So if there's a group of 4 students, like you do a reading of 8 pages, so one person gets 2 pages. So they're responsible for their own 2 pages, but they also have to, if someone's not reading their 2 pages, they kind of have to like nudge them into the right path. And then from there, like they have like this sense of, I guess, community, so that they're all working together. The third one is interpersonal and small group skills. So can you communicate? Can you give feedback positively? Being patient. I feel like CL is kind of like a practice for the real world. So when you go to like companies and big meetings, you can't just be shouting out whatever you want. You kind of have to like take turns, be the listener, and then be the speaker, respond to what is being said. The fourth one is face-to-face promotive interaction. Usually it's a bigger impact on students when they can see each other and work with each other. And also, like if you're messaging, sometimes the tone isn't interpreted the right way. And then group processing, reflection, so they can reflect on what they can do better and just build on like self-awareness skills. And then some essentials for successful cooperation is participation. Everyone needs to do their work. Trust. You trust that they're giving you the right information. And communication, you need to tell them what you know and if you need help. So first one is group goals. Grades are given out and the students work together to accomplish goals. Second one is individual accountability. So groups scores the sum or average of individual assessments. Team competition. So competition motivates teams to work together and cooperate harder. Fifth one is task specialization. So teams assign individual members of sub-tasks to accomplish a master's. And then 6 is adaptation to individual needs. Adapted instruction. So it's kind of like, what do you think is more like an appropriate time to use group work? So Kagan's 4 major categories to engagement principle. So it spells out PIES. So P and PIES. So positive interdependence. Each student is assigned a specific role or task. So roles would be, you're gonna speak this part, and then I'll talk about the conclusion. I, individual accountability. Students are rewarded based on their own work. So this is kind of like where peer and self-assessment kind of kick in. Just for myself, I feel like that's the most successful way to getting authentic feedback. E is equal participation. The roles are clearly defined with equitable workloads. So not like one person is, doing all the PowerPoint presentations and then the person just printing it. Simultaneous interaction. Students perform and assign tasks simultaneously. PIES. PIES. Yeah. Okay, so some popular classroom tasks and activities. The most well-known CL activity is team jigsaw. So they vary in like jigsaw 1, jigsaw 2, 3 stay, 1 stray, 1 stay, 3 stray, something like that. Think pair share, we've done that. You meet up with a partner and you talk about your thinkings. 4 corners, just to see like, do people agree with you? There might be one person who doesn't agree with the group, and they might be right. So they could explain to the class why they're right and everybody else is wrong. Round robin, which is kind of like, everybody tells me a word that starts with a B. Group investigations. I would say that's more like inquiry projects for language learners. So advantages, students practice the target language through writing and speaking. It boosts their accuracy, fluency, and confidence. Peers speak in an informal and more comprehensible language. More individual attention within the groups. So sometimes kids, when you raise your hand, not everyone's gonna get called on, there's not enough time. But within like a group of 4, it's less intimidating, you don't have to raise your hand. And you can speak, taking your turn, obviously, but you know, what you think. Increased motivation, you're working with your classmates. Humans are social creatures, so it's just nice to kind of get out of that lecture zone. They practice collaboration, responsibilities, and other social skills. They become independent workers, reaches out to the teacher. The teacher is the facilitator and external resource. It decreases academic anxiety. So, like, all of us in the group has agreed that we don't know how to solve this. Mixed group interaction. So sometimes you get to work with different people from different cultural backgrounds, different genders, different ages. And then disadvantages, unproductivity, and unrelated conversations. So they could be talking about video games, and you might not know about it. Bad language habits. So someone might know like slang, and they might tell the class, and then everybody's talking to slang, even though you're in an academic language setting. You shouldn't be telling them to get lit. Also grammatical misunderstanding. So a lot of this I've seen is like, for language, it's like singular and plural. They might go back to their first language while they're talking within their groups, rather than talking in their targeted language. There might be conflict with personalities. Advanced students, they might refuse to help people, and if they're taking this time to teach something to another person, it might just hold them back. The struggling students, they kind of slack off because they know, there's smarter people in my group, I don't have to do as much. Or they're trying the best, but they're still not really proficient enough to help. Unproportional shared work. There could be one person that's a dictator and telling you what to do, or there could be one person who's slacking and pulls down the whole group and everybody has to do more work. Students want to learn from the teachers and not their peers. So this is a cultural thing from what I found. So you're here to learn from a teacher. The teacher has all the information, they're always right. And your peers are just there to learn, you know. So why should I listen to my classmate who doesn't know anything either than to the teacher? And the teachers might be viewed as lazy or irresponsible. And it also has decreased motivation from uncooperative or less proficient group members. So it could increase or decrease motivation, it depends on the person. And classroom management is more difficult to monitor the groups.
A big thanks to Linda. Now let's hear some student perspectives.
I think one of the pros is that students have an opportunity to be in autonomous learners, autonomous language learners. So instead of teachers giving the knowledge to the students in the one-way direction of traditional teaching, the students have active role in participating in the group work.
I think it's going to be more understanding between students, because students gonna have get the knowledge from each other. So it might be easier than listen from a teacher, because some stuff they might not understand because it's a hard thing for them.
Well, I think CLL is a great way to get students to be motivated, and it's a great way to build understanding by working together as a team.
Sometimes students are really shy to make questions or get feedback from the teachers, but with peers that is more comfortable, so that students can get more, feedbacks easily. So I think that's the pros of the CL.
I think some of the cons would be first of all, when you're in a group of students and each one has a different task, they might feel kind of like some of them might be working well, and they're assuming they're all working towards the main goal, right? But then some of them might not be doing the same amount of work. So that's definitely going to be an issue for some group members or some groups in general, because that means that the 3 or 4 students that are working well one other person might be lacking, and they might start to kind of resent that person, even in the full classroom. So that can kind of lead to some maybe awkward social exchanges or some bad feelings.
One of the cons is that, for example, if the levels of students are not the same, it's going to be very problematic. It's like, for example, if we have like 2 or 3 weaker students in one group, it's not kind of fair to have like, different levels of students. So we have to kind of balance their levels.
I think one of the cons of that is that the student's personality. Like, I think that plays a significant role in working in the group project, because some students don't prefer to work as a group, they prefer to work individually.
So in terms of how to apply it, I was thinking about a class that I taught at HELP about a year and a half ago. What we did was we did like a reading circle, and then instead of all the students doing the full reading and everybody kind of just discussing it, what we did was we divided the roles. So for example, one student would be the summarizer, so they had to summarize everything. Another student would pick out the key vocabulary, and then another student would be like the leader, like the facilitator of the group. So in that situation, I really liked it a lot, because that kind of took the pressure off the students to just read and just discuss, because that can be kind of like daunting, where they don't really know what to talk about. So I felt like in that situation, like CLL method was really useful, because now they had a real purpose for reading. Like, okay, I have to find my vocabulary, therefore that's my job.
So that's it for this lecture. By far, this is not all the information on this approach, and if you're interested, you should do some more research. But I hope this information will start you off on the right foot to second language teaching. Good luck and goodbye.